What up, artists? My name is Dwayne Jones. I'm the creative director and founder of a lifestyle brand called Art Pays Me. This is the Art Pays Me podcast, and I'm passionate about finding ways that people like you and me can make a living for ourselves off of our creativity. And, maybe we can make the world a better place at the same time. Let's get into it. Art Pays Me. Today I have Eman El-Husseini, and this is going to be an interesting one. A different pace from what I normally interview in some cases, I'd say. So, what is it that you do?
I'm a stand-up comedian.
All right. Yes, yes, yes. So I came across you by chance one day because somebody I know said, "Hey, I think there's a comedian wearing one of your shirts on TV." And I was like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" And
I came across your t-shirts before meeting you
uh-huh.
um, at a lovely coffee shop in Halifax. Huge fan of Halifax in general, and I went to this coffee shop. I wish I could remember the name now. Uh,
Uncommon daily grind.
oh, exactly, Daily Grind. I loved it. I loved the vibe there, and I just saw this tank top. Art pays me, and I thought I loved everything about it, and I got a tank top, and I wear it all the time. I actually need a new one. This is how much I wear it, that it's been worn out.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So, how have you been coping through this pandemic?
Honestly, great. I don't know. I always thought I was an extroverted person, but quarantine has brought the best out of me. Just like doing all the things I didn't have time to do. We always complain we don't have time to read. I'm catching up on reading. I'm learning Spanish. I'm training my new puppy. I'm basic white girling hard.
By the way, I love that puppy. What kind of dog is it?
She's a Cavapoo, a mix of poodle and the King Cavalier Charles. I think that's the name, Cavalier King Charles.
Okay. I have a
Yeah.
Labradoodle, so I thought there was some poodle in there.
Oh yeah, the poodles. My wife likes to say the whores of the dog breeds. Everybody mixes with poodle.
You know why? Because they're so smart. And
Exactly.
is your dog hypoallergenic?
Yeah, we needed. That's the thing. We feel so bad because we're a married lesbian couple, and we should have done the right thing and rescued a dog, but instead we got this like fancy mixed dogs that doesn't shed and is really smart, and we're able to travel with her when we used to travel a lot for comedy.
So you're saying you're a disappointment to the lesbian community?
I think so. Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed to even talk about it right now.
Oh, she's so sweet. How big is she actually going to get to be?
I think I think her parents are like between 6 and 14 pounds. So we're hoping not more than 14.
Mm, okay.
And
Wow.
she's at 7 now. She's 6 months and she's at 7 pounds, I would say.
She a tiny, tiny, tiny thing. Wow.
Yeah, she's all hair too. I mean, she's like really cute.
Hmm.
But whenever we bathe her, it's really I can't even show you the photos. It looks terrible. It's like she's all hair.
Yeah, but I think that's the poodle because my guy's like that too. Right now, he because of COVID, he can't get groomed, and he's like a big fluff ball. But once he gets cut, he's just all bones, and he
Yeah.
looks like a completely different dog.
I know my parents met her. I feel so weird because I'm like, oh, she's growing, and like we were able to take her to the vet because we got her before the pandemic, and they said that she seems healthy and she's growing like she's supposed to be. But my parents made me feel so self conscious that she's too skinny. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's just like a Middle Eastern thing or the dog is supposed to be like this or what, but now I'm paranoid and I try to feed her as much as possible.
My wife was obsessed when our dog was younger. He's like, he's so skinny. He's so skinny. Why won't he eat more? He's got to eat more. He's got to eat more. And I, I felt bad because I was always super skinny as a kid and couldn't gain weight. So I was like, he's taking after his dad. You can't
Yeah.
help
You're so lucky. I know we say that he's taken after my brother-in-law. He does not care about food and he's super fit and just like constantly has a six pack. So we're like, she's definitely a Kirsch. She's taken after him because we gain weight easily.
it. So you mentioned your wife,
Yeah,
Jess. You're Palestinian, am I correct with that?
that's correct.
And she's Jewish.
And she's Jewish. That's correct. I like to be oppressed in the streets and in the sheets.
Uh-huh. How did you two end up meeting?
You know what? She came on the comedy scene when I was already 2 years in. I thought she was a spy because she was a war crimes lawyer for the United Nations. And then I hear this Jess Solomon is a new comic on the scene. She gave up law to pursue comedy. And I'm like, she's, Israel was notified about my success. I'm no longer an open micer. I'm starting to do weekend spots. They found out, they sent her to sabotage my career. But we were actually friendly for 2 years before anything romantic happened. We got along, but it wasn't anything. We did discuss like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict often,
Mhm.
and became closer when I co-produced Kosher Jokes for the Holidays. This is the thing that I loved about living in Canada, just seeing how the Muslim and Jewish comics naturally gravitated towards each other, and that exposure made them like have relationships and stuff. And I really wanted to shed light on that. And we always talk about how our communities don't get along. And I really feel like exposure makes such a huge difference. So I spoke to my good friend, Jeff Shuela at the time, a Montreal comedian. He's Jewish, and told him about the idea, and he thought it was great. So we got Jewish and Muslim comics that we know on the scene in Montreal and created that show. And it was such a hit. Like I said, I was 2 years into comedy and I rented like a big venue. We were like a bunch of nobodies that put on the show, and it was a success that it grew into a 3-city tour. And in Montreal, the show ended up going from one night to like five shows over 3 nights. So it was a really fun thing. And out of it, Jess and I got to know each other and fell in love and got married. So
Wow, just like that.
yeah, just like
So
that.
so like a passion project ended up like taking you all kinds of directions.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just thinking like from personal growth to like even career growth, it seems, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so nice to have both communities under one roof, laughing together, laughing at the same things, and just it's just at the end of the day, I always say that exposure is so important, and we're lucky to live in countries like we do. I mean, although the world is falling apart right now, but I do feel like the majority of racist people or people that have hate are rarely exposed to the person that they hate. And I feel like when you have a regular conversation or you laugh together, it really opens up your world.
Mm-hmm. This is very true.
Yeah.
So, you were when I first started talking to you, you were based in Brooklyn, and now you're back in Canada.
I know. We've been in New York for 4 years and thought that we were real New Yorkers after 3 years. But as soon as like something went wrong, we're like, we're out of here. Although Jess had a harder time leaving New York. She really wanted to like stick it through and just be there and live through the whole thing in New York. I was too terrified. I just between Trump wanting to reopen the country and how divisive he is, and Andrew Cuomo just begging for medical supplies. I was like, I cannot deal with this. I cannot risk getting sick, going to a hospital. Although we have health insurance, very expensive health insurance, but despite that, I'm too afraid to something happens and there's not enough respirators. I need if I die or I get an infection, I want it to be like more grand. It can't be like she died in the emergency room because she couldn't get medical supplies.
Oh, right, right. It's got to be like a big scene, not just like a random person on the side in the hallway.
Exactly. I can't just die on a stretcher in the middle of everything. So, but yeah, luckily for us that we are Canadian, we had that privilege of being able to come back. Although we cut it really close, like right, I think the day before they closed the border, we snuck in.
Jeez,
Yeah.
jeez. Yeah, these are some wild ass times. Right now you got COVID happening, you got protests going down. It's like
Yeah.
it's a mess. It's a mess over there right now.
It's really a mess. It's really, yeah. And, Trump is also like punishing blue states by not providing enough medical supplies or whatever it is. It was too dangerous. It was too dangerous to stay.
Hmm. So let's take it back. What were you like as a child?
Oh my God. I guess very similar to how I am now. I wasn't the best student. Comedy found me pretty early. I felt that I got away with a lot with my teachers because I made them laugh. Any opportunity I had, like oral presentations are the only reason I passed any French class because my writing and reading was so terrible. And yeah, I was like for an average student, I was almost every teacher's pet. So comedy was always part of my growing up. Also, my dynamic with my family were either like really angry and fighting or we're laughing together. There's no in between. So we really relied on comedy
Hmm.
in general. I was born in the Middle East. I was born in Kuwait, and we fled during the Gulf War in 1990. And just seeing how my parents coped with everything already. I mean, they've been through war before. That was their second war.
Yeah.
So just seeing them cope with it, the way they would tell us jokes and like fun stories and just pretending that nothing was really happening to not scare us. So I just felt that comedy is really a powerful tool to get your point across without like really shoving it down somebody's throat.
Mm.
I feel like when you make somebody laugh, it puts their guard down and they just like listen to you more. So and I in the entertainment industry in general, as you know, it just did not reflect minorities properly. So I felt like I needed to represent for myself and not have like an East Asian play an Arab role and barely speak Arabic.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So you really. I mean, I love that you own everything about who you are and your background. I think that's really refreshing, and you're like kind of a poster child for this new world in that you represent so many different identities and conflicting identities in many people's opinions, but like
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I always say also another reason I'm thriving in quarantine is I feel like my conflicting identities as a Muslim lesbian have finally found common ground between self-isolation and social distancing. It's just being Palestinian, especially, was really is really something that I'm very proud of. But also seeing how people reacted to me saying I was Palestinian was such a shock. Being born in Kuwait, living there until I was 10 years old, moving to Canada, and realizing that people didn't like Arabs and Muslims was a huge wake up call for me that I had no idea. I always thought that we were like we're cool people. Why would people not like us? I didn't have a clue that we were misrepresented and just like really vilified in the media. And being Palestinian specifically was so controversial for a lot of people. I mean, I would meet other Palestinians who would tell me at first that they were Lebanese or Jordanian or Syrian just to avoid conflict because it's so politically charged. to be Palestinian. And then when I tell them I'm Palestinian, they're like, "Oh, us too. We just we weren't sure what nationality you were, so we didn't want to, we didn't want to start talking about politics because you're just a natural born politician. Everybody just wants to talk about politics when you find out. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you my Uber rides, how they are. Eman El-Husseini, where are you from? It's like every single person. It has to be a political discussion. And I mean, doing a radio, I love the way that you introduced me of being like, you're Palestinian, right? I remember early on in my career in Montreal, getting invited to do a radio show. And the radio host asked me where I was originally from. And I said Palestinian. And he said, "Oh, that's edgy." Can you imagine? So like, I
Wow.
felt like it was so important for me to put emphasis on being Palestinian, on being very proud of being Palestinian, especially in today's world with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, where Palestinians are literally getting erased off the map. I mean, their land was taken. Now our food is being taken. Our language is being taken, and just complete erasure.
Yeah, I love how you go in on Israel sometimes.
I do. That's why everybody's like, "Are you sure you want to do this in the entertainment industry?" I don't know if you'll get very far, but yeah, I think it's important to call out things. And a lot of Jewish people are very liberal, and a lot are not Zionists. A lot see the injustice that's happening. Like every other religious group, they come in different shades, colors, and political opinions. So it's so important to not be fearful of saying something to upset somebody. I mean, listen, I'm also Muslim. I've been outspoken against my own people, the injustices, the homophobia, the racism, the sexism. And in the Middle East, these things are like unapologetic. People are just like, this is how it is. Men are better than women. And they'll like look you dead in the eye and just be like, yeah, of course, men are superior to women. So I feel like I've been a fighter since the beginning, because I was just like, how is anybody okay with this? Especially being Palestinian. Like, how could you be okay with any form of injustice when you're asking for justice for yourself,
Yeah, I agree. At the moment, we're experiencing a huge backlash against anti-Black racism. But like at the same time, I hope at the end of all of this, it comes out as solidarity and not us all competing in the oppression Olympics. And it's like, well,
Oh yeah, that really kills me. Anybody who's comparing, I mean, to me, all of my life, although Palestinian woman, gay, the whole thing, um, there is not to like compare injustices, but what Black people go through is like incomparable. This minorities being awful to Black people, including white people being awful to Black people. Um, there's definitely no comparison. These like deaths that happen, I do feel like the Aboriginal or Indigenous population in Canada goes through this very much as well. There's a thing, for me, I'm Palestinian. I'm not visibly Muslim. I don't wear a veil. I don't wear any niqab. A lot of people could think I could be Greek or Italian or even Jewish. So I don't get attacked for the color of my skin. A Black person cannot hide behind anything. It's on their face. And I do feel like this oppression. I mean, listen, I think the solution for what's happening to Black people is 100% reparations. I know that everybody says that that's not doable, but African Americans have been robbed for 400 years, and and a price has to be paid for that.
well, I mean, all this coronavirus stuff kind of proves that America could have given out reparations all this time if they really wanted to.
I
Because
mean, I can't believe how much money goes to the police force, and all they do is kill innocent people of color. So, yeah,
yeah,
give give those police pensions to minorities, is what I say.
yeah, seriously, put that
Yeah.
money somewhere else. Uh, um, so let's switch gears a little bit. Tell me about the El-Salomons.
So Jess, who's also a comedian, and I decided. Well, actually, it was asked of us to perform together about a year and a half ago. We were, or maybe almost 2 years now. Yeah, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. Just got invited to do an English and French gala at JFL in 2018. And they knew that I was going to be a good wife and accompany her. So they decided to give us 2 nights in off JFL to do whatever we wanted together. And BBC happened to be in town and they wanted to record a segment of our comedy. And the producer called us up and said, "Why don't you guys do 5 minutes together on stage?" And we said, "Absolutely not. We don't want to work together. The comedy, is already such a solitary thing, and we're married. We don't want to get into a fight." And they're like, "Just do 5 minutes together." But we're like, "You have 7 million listeners. Like, we can't risk it." So they're like, "Okay, how about you do 5 minutes separately and then 5 minutes together? If the duo set is not good, we'll just play your individual set." So we're like, "Okay, fine." So we ended up doing it. Of course, everybody loved it. Just the dynamic. It's just that Jess and I are very argumentative, and I think that appeals to a lot of people. So what we were afraid of, like fighting and stuff like that, is something that people embraced in the end. And just seeing how different we are. So we're like, okay, great. So we did it. BBC was so happy with it. And then in off JFL, we decided for our 2 shows to do 20 minutes separately and 20 minutes together. I mean, the biggest fight of our relationship happened prior to shows. And both of us were just like, this is not fun at all. If we end up working together, we're going to get a divorce. Like, this is really bringing out the worst in each other. But people embraced it so much. We sold out both shows. They added a third show. And the year after, Just for Laughs invited us to film a special for Crave, which is now available for streaming on Crave. And yeah, and we've been working together ever since. And it's gotten so much better, thank God. But yeah, we survived. This is what we say. I think we're going to end up together forever because we survived working together, and now we're surviving quarantine. So I think we're set.
You know what? The first real collaboration I had with my wife was planning our wedding.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Imagine getting like a divorce before you get married, even. That would have been something.
Yeah, because I'm a designer, so I was the type of, like, I wasn't your stereotypical husband who's like, yeah, we'll do whatever you want to do. I was like, I think we should do this, and I like this idea, and blah blah blah. And I was very particular about how the invitation should look, and
Yeah.
it was, like, we just kept butting heads.
And what does she do? What does your wife do?
She's right. Currently, she's a vice principal at
Okay.
elementary school.
Okay.
So we're
So
actually,
it's hard to tell. I guess it's hard to tell a vice principal what to do. They're used to being in
yeah,
charge.
yeah. Like, she's got that. She was the type of kid that played teacher, as a kid, and she is kind of used to. It's funny because outside of the house, even though she's a vice principal, she's not like a overbearing boss or anything like that. But
Yeah.
she definitely knows what she likes and what she doesn't like, and she's not afraid to tell me. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I just grew to appreciate, because I'm like, you know what? At least I know I'm on the right track. Because if I'm not, she's not gonna she's not gonna pacify me to make me feel good or anything. She's gonna be like, nah, this ain't it. You gotta do better. And I just always
Yeah.
know.
It's true. Jess is exactly like that. Is your wife a Taurus by any chance?
No, she's not.
No. What sign is she?
You know what? I don't even know, to be honest. I don't pay
When's her
attention to
birthday?
any of that. September.
Oh, that's Libra. Very balanced. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Jess, I mean, is not shy to tell me anything. It's rare to actually get a compliment from her because she always wants me to be better. That's what I'm dealing with.
Oh man. Oh, married life.
Yeah.
So, here's a question that I have. Is it
Hmm.
true that most comedians, this is a thing that I've heard anyway. Is it true that most
Mhm.
comedians are like dark individuals or had like really troubled lives?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are. I think you resort to comedy out of some kind of, you know, negative thing that happened in your life. It's a defense mechanism. It helps you cope with whatever trauma you've been through. I do think so to a certain extent that it applies to a lot of comedians. Yes. And I do find that comedians that's why they say nobody likes a happy comedian.
Yeah.
Um, because like what's the point? Nobody wants to hear you go up on stage and just like brag about your life. They want to hear about the hardships. They want to make light of difficult situations. It's a form of escape for both the performer and the audience members, I think. And that was a really challenging thing for us when we were in New York and Trump won the election, and a lot of morons were like, "Oh, it's going to be great for your comedy." It's actually like it's a fucking nightmare. A lot of us are too angry to come up with funny jokes about this asshole. His Twitter feed, is like you can't even keep up because it's a disaster after a disaster.
Wow.
It was too frustrating, but I think it's like therapy for a lot of people who can't afford therapy or find it easier to talk to a room full of strangers rather than like one individual. So yeah, I do believe that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. You just often kind of see these, if you look at it objectively, painful scenarios turned into some kind of brilliant observation that has humor attached to it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah.
Exactly. It kind of like, in a way, eases the pain. It's like on such a simpler, more basic note, but it's like when a friend of yours calls you up and is like, "Oh my god, I have the best news." You're just like, oh, "Okay," you're like excited to hear it because you're happy for your friend. Or a friend calls you up and says, "You will never believe what fucking happened to me today." I'm like, I'm so into that conversation. Like, let me get my popcorn, let me get my glass of wine, go for it. There's something more exhilarating in hearing about pain and anger. Not because you're happy that something bad happened to your friend, but just like there's something humbling and just I guess more exciting to hear than just like, "I got a promotion today." It's like, "Oh, okay, good. I'm so happy for you," but,
Yeah. So, like, let's talk about your latest album, "Handsome Daughter."
Oh my god, yes, I'm so happy I got to record it in May. I got invited to do the Winnipeg Comedy Festival this year. I really love Winnipeg, and a lot of the local comics have been so kind to me every time I've gone there. And one guy in particular started running a show at a new bar called Handsome Daughter. Initially, I
Uh,
wanted to name the album Cleavagey Muslim, but when we did it at the Handsome Daughter, everybody's like, "Iman, I think that title suits you more." So, although I got a little insulted, I thought, okay, perfect.
mhm.
Um, so I actually missed my flight. I'm so sad. I'm so glad that I recorded it and I'm happy with it. But I missed my connecting flight because there were delays from New York to Toronto. And I landed in Winnipeg literally 45 minutes before showtime. I was a mess and I was recording two shows that night. So I really tried so hard to hold it together. And I'm old now. Like in my 20s, I would have been able to like pull it off, no problem.
Mhm.
But now that I'm like in my 30s, late 30s, I was just so exhausted. So like that's a new thing for me. I can no longer like record a TV set if I fly in the same day. I learned that when I came to Halifax for the last comedy festival that they had. Back in the day when I came to like Halifax in 2012 to record a set, I was in my 20s. It was no problem. I could fly in the same day. I could fly in half an hour before showtime and kill it. But now I'm just like, I'm an old lady. I need to like land the day before, get my rest, wake up the next day feeling refreshed, and then record. So it could have easily been a bust. That album, but thank God, it worked out. I'm very happy with it. I mean, it's very religion heavy. I like talking about religion a lot and just dissecting all of that and how, I'm very critical of all religions, including my own. So I was happy that I was able to put out all of that on one album.
Mm. Yeah, you, you ended it on a bang. But
Oh yeah, with my porn bit. Well, I just never understood how sexuality became this forbidden thing. Like just it's such a natural thing, and it became so forbidden and wrong to feel sexual or want sex, and so much shame was attached to it. When in sincerity, I think like religion should have that, not sex. So yeah, I like to do that contrast of embracing sexuality and my very unique porn taste.
but isn't it interesting though that like television, say non-cable television, they would
Yeah,
show someone's head getting blown off or something like that. But
right.
like a nipple, no, no, can't have that. Like like
When it's literally the most natural thing about human beings, everybody does it in some way. It's such an individual, beautiful thing, and you're not hurting anybody. Sexuality, if it was expressed properly, and it's in a consensual form, like what is the problem? It's a beautiful thing. It's just we put so much shame on naked bodies and sex, and I never understood it. I don't understand how religion took off and sex didn't.
oh man. So do you have anything else coming up that you want to promote?
I mean, it's hard to promote anything during a pandemic, but I am doing Zoom shows and IG live shows here and there. Especially during this time, most of the shows that I do are the donations are going to some BLM cause. And yeah, I mean, for those of you that live in Canada, please watch our Crave special. We also have our cartoon account on Instagram, the El-Salomons, that's based on our marriage. My individual Instagram is Eman El-Husseini. You could follow me on Twitter. I shit on Republicans all the time. To Imani Speak. Follow me on Facebook, whatever you guys.
Uh, man, thank you very much for hopping on the show. I didn't honestly think you would be able to do it.
Oh
So
no. I'm such a fan of your work. I'm such a fan of Halifax. It was such a fun, we got to meet briefly last time I was in Halifax at that daytime show.
yes.
Yeah, and it was quick, and we never really got together. I think we were supposed to like sit together and maybe record a podcast back then, but it didn't work out. Anyway, I'm glad. Now I have no excuses. I mean, I'm just like I can't say that I'm busy. I can't say anything. But
Yeah.
no, I'm glad. I'm a fan of your work, and it's always nice to talk to you.
Thank you though. But you know what? I feel that I'm in my late 30s too, and time and energy and all of that stuff. What happened to the times when I didn't even need to sleep? I could just
I know. I mean, just being in New York too, like I got there in my 20s when I used to go and do open mics and just like I'd be able to stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning. Now it's like I'm like hitting 2 shows tops and I'm like, I'm exhausted. It's really the stamina really goes down. That's the first thing I notice. I still like my vision is good. Everything's good. It's just the stamina's gone down.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of same with me too. Even playing sports, sometimes I fool myself into still thinking like, "Hey, I'm still all right." But then after like 5 minutes out there, it's like, "Oh no, I'm done. I'm
Oh, yeah. I
checked
mean,
in."
working out is the only thing that I've included in my 30s, and now I can't live without it. It's just like I finally found the thing. I know that I could never diet. I just love food too much, and it's so hard for me to deprive myself. So
Damn.
I started exercising seriously in the past 3-4 years, and I can't live without it. I'm not saying that I'm like ripped or anything, but I finally found something to like block me from becoming obese because that's the route I was I was going towards. So And it's just good. It's like good for your heart. It's good for that stuff. So
Yep, yep. I feel you. All right.
yeah,
So anyway, I'll let you go with that. And once again, thank you for doing Art Pays Me, and I'll talk to you later.
of course. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Art Pays Me podcast. Thank you to Langy Beats for the theme music. If you got anything out of this show, please rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. The more you do this, the more reach the podcast gets, and the more artists I can help learn to make a living at what they love. If you want to know more about what I do, hit me up at artpaysme.com or at artpaysme on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. See y'all next time.